Issues concerning refugees and immigration are among the most difficult issues facing Americans today. Episcopal Migration Ministries, the arm of the church that deals with refugees and immigrants, says that many of us live in bubbles, and we don't often have the opportunity to hear the stories of people around us who may be different from us. Now you will have the opportunity to hear the stories of 3 refugees who have come to live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You'll also have the opportunity to hear about groups of Christians who have gotten together to help those refugees better adapt to life in the United States. Perhaps you will be inspired to do the same.
My name is Omar Muhammad. I was born in Somalia. I left Somalia when I was 4 years old. There was a civil war in Somalia that we had a president who has been a president for 24 years old. He used his power to cause a war among the people who are in Somalia. And then the civil war broke. There was a war in every city in Somalia. So everyone has to run for his or her life. So it wasn't something that people planned, that knew it was going to happen, get ready, get food, or get families together. No, it just happened from city to city, different days. And we were very lucky to survive from that war. Before the war broke, we were a middle-class family. We were very fine. My father was a farmer. We had one of the largest farms in that city, and my mother was a saleswoman. She used to sell the farm product in the market. We were a very stable family. We didn't need anything from no one. One very bad thing that happened was when people started running for their life, every family gets separated. Everyone ran. My mother ran from the market where she was. My father ran from the farm. We kids ran with our neighbors. Nobody knew where to run for. And we just ran from where the gunshots were to the opposite side. So we happened to run to the border of Kenya. And it took us about 3 months to reach the Kenyan border. And one good thing was there was all agencies waiting at the border. They were only saving whoever makes to the border, so will be received by United Nations. It's called UNHCR, Save the Children. All those organizations were waiting people at the border. And one thing we usually forget is those who make to the border and those who died were more than those who make to the border. When UNHCR, United Nations, hire for refugees, was setting up this house, the camp, they said it's going to be a home for maybe 90,000, maybe 100,000. It became a home for over 900,000 people. You can't use even the main ways because that's where the military were traveling. So everyone was running through the bushes from tree to tree. By the time we were at the border, we were almost dead. A lot of people died on their way. They couldn't make it to the camp. A lot of kids died on the way to cross the country. So that's how hectic it was. The conditions in the refugee camps were also terrible. Each family was given one tent. And then there was diseases the first months or the first 3 days because a lot of people didn't knew how to cook. Even like maybe 20% or 30% of those who came to the camp died in the camp because there was a lot of disease. There was diarrhea, starvation, the weather, there was a lot of malaria, mosquitoes. They didn't foresee that they're gonna house for 900,000 people. We didn't plan we're gonna stay here forever. Because I remember as a child being told, you don't have to plant any trees because we are going back. And then we end up staying in that camp for over 15, 16 years. Those who are born in that refugee camp get married in the camp, they have kids in that refugee camp. The refugees call it open prison because the Kenyan government does not allow you to leave. You live in that camp, you'll be asked something they call an ID. So you have to prove that you're a Kenyan to cross through to the Kenya. If you don't have it, then you'll be arrested, sent back to the refugee camp. You just nothing. Even there's not enough food, there's not enough clothes, there's nothing. You just sit there for nothing. But as time goes, the life had improved. Being a child, that's the best part of your life. Didn't enjoy their childhood because we spent 15 years in a refugee camp. It's not like doing anything that any child will do in the rest of the world. The only hope those refugees had was to be resettled, to get a better life, to also feel safe, or to find a place where they can call home. Being a refugee was the last thing any human being wants to. The last thing any person wants is to leave their country too. So the idea of saying those refugees are coming to the United States or to any other country is not because they want to come. It's because they are forced to leave their country, as I was forced to leave my country.
Lo ake balan kwa rake ba deri bana wala akila ke balan kwa kamyal wala lo ake basan do wala si duringa joyengi wala yani sabi alang do ide Sudan ong na mayena kakiana kala na chat kari refugee camp.
I want to tell you something that for my life, for the people, that when I remember when we were fighting from the village, I remember we will have to fight for the whole week. We just walking to find a water place, and no one waiting for food, no one waiting for water, no one can eat nothing. I remember one day, I lost my mother. I just survived with my mother. The next day I found my mother. When we moved from the church, my father was a farmer and he had 3 friends, and their friend it wasn't good friend. They said my mother to my father, we want to catch the river. When we go to the river, when my father cursed him, my father they told my father, you go first and I will follow you. And he said, no, you go. And they said, you have to go first. When my father go to the river, she said, I need help. I cannot get out. And they said, you can do it by yourself. You just have to swim and get out. And my father doesn't know how to swim. And when we come back to home, they didn't tell early. They never told us that my father was died. And we have to 7 days just looking for my father, and they never find my father.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's why we interviewed two from the United States.
But you did find your mother again, didn't you?
I found her now.
How did you find your mother?
I was with my father at this time.
Oh, okay. That's very hard. So there are some things that you miss a lot, don't you? You miss your family, your father.
Yes, I have my grandmother and my grandfather and have a lot of family, a big family we left over there.
Sure. And that's the sad part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Pete Greenfield, and I live here in Lancaster County. Alert is a vehicle for response to community needs, and also a way of allowing the churches to learn a new way of responding to those community needs. We found that by coming together as 10 churches, we were able to respond by identifying people that we knew that lived in Jersey and the Episcopal Church that was in Jersey, and it wound up with us filling 138 buckets, 5-gallon buckets of materials that they needed as they were trying to get back into their homes. Well, we came back and we said this was a really great opportunity, and it was worshipful, we blessed, and it was an uplifting experience. We said, but why can't we continue this? And so out of that grew the experience of a group called ALERT, which means All Lancaster Episcopal Response Team, A-L-E-R-T, ALERT. And since then, we've been in the ministry since that time, and the ministry has been defined by the needs of the community. We develop groups for transportation, and we have tutoring and education. We have the gathering of material goods where needed, and just other areas that affect the human life. ALERT is the only circle of what we call a circle of friends that have gathered around the family. and how effective that really is and how necessary. But we are 10 churches in the county, and it's drawn us together. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
The only opportunity we had was to be resettled. That was our struggle for our skill to survive, because that's the only hope we had. We said, be patient, survive. You are gonna get a better life one day. And then in the resettlement process, only 1% or less than 1% gets the opportunity to be resettled. 1% of that 1% makes it. That's how difficult it is even to be resettled to the US or to any other Western countries. Specifically for my case, it took me 7 years to do from the first screening until I came to the United States. Also, imagine the difficulty of you being interviewed. You tell like some refugees, they have to share the difficult they have been. Some people lost their lives, their parents. Some people had other challenges. Some of them, their mother, their sister, their daughter were raped in front of them. So imagine sharing that story again and again to a stranger that you have no idea if he's gonna approve your case or if he's gonna decline your case. So it's very hard. Growing up in that refugee camp and coming to the US is a huge difference. Nothing is the same. The houses is different, the toilets are different, the people are different, the culture is different, the food is different. So, and we are expected to adjust within 3 months. So I came to Lancaster County 4 years ago, I think. And then, because the reason I came was I got a job in Lancaster. I also had friends, families that lived in Lancaster, so that they told me the good things about Lancaster and how Lancaster people are welcoming and great. Also, I now work with Church World Service as a resettlement case manager. And I also I'm also a cultural navigator, and I'm also a youth mentor. So I have three responsibilities here at Church World Service. I'm the one who will pick them up, the newly arrived refugees from the airport. The first day they come to this country, it's like they will start learning through me how to start their new life in America or in Lancaster. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad I'm safe here with my family. But I also have still friends in the refugee camp. We have hope, and God has also His own plans, and we depend on God. So everything happens on purpose. We humans have a plan, but God has His only plan. So the only hope they have is they pray to God to save them from that refugee camp, to find for them a better life.
Alshat kanga duin duo wa fempia na korobawe yani medin nyanga zirafi na mazira lo korobawe ko ingi kitamni ayom na sakumamba namas ane kanga tefsias kanga refugee tefsia nyom na mai senange disi kiena side emfi na masengwal duinga baina duin duo na side emfi nama dain tefsia la ka lia nama sene konga nama kuin kwa na ele nama senanga al kin kwa na ele alang Amerika jo alas nama kiona am interview ka refugee office le nama skini kano kwa na si kisita sene na sawa sene ngiri ine kela Amerika ine ritina zamaile na kuindo wala gerai kawe nang si juringa sur fogul nangi fulustam kanyana kaing akila kula nakam nan duo shogol jaw na din tongin ijar taga jaruti nan ki bela taga dafan jaw nan kwa kaina side kawe ati sugun jo kwel sugun gis kanya ti duo wajani nes mustashfa gis kanya na tongis kaingin tia ati dogalang dieng dogalan dieng enti anelai entian le nangisi yen kerele ati dogola si murajata nan si yen kawetong kawel yenga siasan syukuran wa yani en lo amni wa amani nan si amni kena na kwasi saidem fi na ayu mashakila kaimbana dogola gerai kawe nama wela sangen wa syukuran ketiri diem baru yani baroi dan my country.
My name is Khadija Hadamisa. I am from Sudan, and I was born in January 1, 1988, and they moved from the refugee campus in January 1, 2015. First of all, when I was child, when we lived in back to Sudan, that's when we start fighting in the village. That was 2008. We will find the president of the Sudan. He doesn't want the black people. He just says he's going to kill all of the people. And then there was no way that they can survive. That's why we left to Sudan to move from another country. It was the small town between the Chad and Sudan. We were stayed on this village for 1 year, and then we just working outside for looking for the food, and there's not enough food. And the president of the Chad saying, "I'm gonna help them." She brought the people to have to bring them in the Chad. That is another town that we moved over there. The first time when I drive to the United States, I was so very nervous and I was scared because there's no one who speaks my language and I don't understand anything. And I say, I want to go to school. And they say, when I go, my first care was the Bilal. And they told me that you are 17 years old, you do not have to go to the high school. You have to get a job. And I said, I do not want to get a job. Why do I love my country to move over here? Because I need to get education for school. And they told me, if you want to get education, you have to go in a courthouse to tell the judge from the courthouse. And I said, yes, I'm able to go. When I go there, they asked me so many questions. They told me, how do you know that school is important? And I said, how do you become for the principal for the courthouse if you do not go to school? At this time, you do not become a principal for the courthouse. That's why when I say, they told me that, and he said, yes, you are right, you can go to school. And I was there from the McCaskey. That is going to be like 2 years. First of all, they bring for me for another school. They told me that you have to go to another school and we will find a better school. And I said, yes, they bring me right there, but they do not teach good. And I didn't understand anything. I said, I cannot learn anything. I need the better school. And they told me that we will move you from McCaskey. Is that why you need, because your little sister in McCaskey? And I said, no, because it's better school from the other one. That's why I need it. And that one is the high school. And now I have been here for 2 years and a half, and I will graduate from there, from the McCaskey High School. After high school, the one thing that I decided to do, I want to go to the college to study for nursing because I want to become a nurse. Later, maybe I will change my mind and I will become a registered doctor. Because if I go back to my country, I can help them with the people who's enjoying or have right here awesome. I can help them too. And I can take care of my family too. The most is living in the United States. There's the bad place, and there's no one can do something wrong to you. And the child can get the education for school to be learning. Because in the United States, if you do not get education for school, you will have a really, really hard to live. They help me for everything. They help me for the homework, taking care for my family. They do everything. I'm so famous of them. They were so nice people too. The one thing that the child is getting education, but in my country, that is, you have to pay for money for the school, and there's not enough. the kids cannot get education, and it's not our place. That's why we left the family to move from here.
Reverend Twyla Smith, who is in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So Twyla, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. The Episcopal Church of the Mediator is a parish, I think, like many across the country, a long history and a location that's undergone demographic shifts, an aging and slowly declining membership with just under 100 now on an average Sunday, and a good many parishioners who live well outside the neighborhood. We're set in a densely populated and semi-urban area with economic challenges, as well as many neighborhood assets. And so the church had a desire to widen its welcome, specifically to engage more in the neighborhood. We were exploring several areas for mission to help us learn more about community needs and to discern gifts and interests in the parish. And that led us to look at literacy in the fall of 2015. We became aware then of a population change, that there was a growing number of Arabic speakers. And there have been Syrians in Allentown for more than a century, but these were newcomers, refugees who were just beginning to come into the neighborhood, but also come into attention in news reports. And so to offer support, we held a book drive, to something really simple, but it was to collect Arabic-English dictionaries and children's books. At the time, we didn't know about local resettlement efforts. What we did notice was how parishioners responded. A woman came in with a children's book she had ordered and said she kept staring at the Arabic text and thought, I could never read this, and then realized that someone from Syria was probably looking at English the same way. It was a connection, a real human connection, and the headlines telling us about the refugee crisis around the world were something local. We knew we couldn't fix it, but in some small way, I think we began to realize that God was showing us that we could reach out and hold it with people in this community. So as news reports poured in, we held some forums in the church and attended a couple of interfaith events to offer support. We connected with the local resettlement agency, collected gifts, and then prepared some welcome boxes with household items for new families moving in. And with every collection, the response from the parish was twice what we expected. So in February of last year, we were given the gift of a mission. The local resettlement agency, which is connected to Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, had a dream of a community center to support refugee wellness. So we would soon undergo a shift from learning about needs and collecting needed items to entering relationships. We were about to meet our neighbors. What we didn't know until then is that refugees had been moving in all around the church in small apartments, in old row houses. They were from Syria and Sudan, from Burma, Eritrea, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They speak Arabic, Tigrinya, Kiswahili, 3 different Burmese dialects, and French. They're Muslim and Christian, and they're our neighbors. And so the leadership of the parish made a leap. We had the desire and a large underused space in the church waiting for a purpose. And over the next 3 months or so, we began to sort out what this might become, or at least piece together a beginning. So through last spring and summer, we worked toward levels of commitment within the parish and connecting more with refugees, with our neighbors, and saw the love begin to grow. One of the first needs that was presented was for a refugee-specific ESL class. The local agency had funding for an instructor, and it gave us an opportunity to engage parishioners to help host classes. From a parish perspective, I think it was important that we set a defined period for invitation. Let's try this for 10 weeks. Then there was a summer series, and now there's a long-term commitment with 4 classes each week and much more than that. You can see from this photo that it's a rather ordinary church dining room. I wanted to share an image that's not beautifully staged. because the space is, I think, typical of what's available in a lot of places. We pull tables together, roll in the whiteboard, and it's ready. The way we approach the classes continues to evolve, yet there are values that guide us. While there's a paid instructor funded through the local resettlement agency, volunteer tutors help out and offer other support, and there are people from the parish and the local community partnering together, working side by side. We serve refreshments. There's definitely coffee hour at the class break, and it's a time for us to get to know one another better. The classes put all of us, I think, in a learning mode, and they bring us into close interaction, that side-by-side connection. The daytime classes, which you can see here, are smaller, and they have more women, mostly Syrian and Sudanese. The evening classes are larger, more mixed. And in all of them, we're working to understand one another. It's very relational. This is a core piece, I believe, of what the whole center is about, and certainly a core aspect of mission. Being in relationship, we've learned, means the whole family. And we soon realized that many of our neighbors would not be able to attend classes unless they could bring their children. We also know that they need a space of safety and of comfort. And for us to be people of welcome and hospitality and to show our faithfulness, we needed to intentionally make room for this, to dedicate space for it. We visually communicate this for everyone using some side areas of the dining room, which you see here, to create play and reading spaces, for example. We didn't start out thinking we would have so many children. There are often 8 to 10 toddlers in the morning sessions and more in the evenings. We keep the space open so children and parents are not separated. And sometimes it gets messy and loud, and it's working. We didn't set out with this image of what a refugee community center might look like, or even imagine it. For a group of parents newly arrived here to be learning English and connecting with other people in the community and hearing their children laugh just a few feet away from them is more than we could ask for. So sometimes we've learned things don't turn out quite like we expect. And I think we're beginning to let go of expectations and let this become what God is growing, which is more beautiful than we could imagine. Looking at this mission with our baptismal covenant close at heart has kept our focus on the relationships. The desire to live into this call has us continually seeking understanding, listening, learning, so that we're supporting what our refugee neighbors need and want, respecting dignity. And it's led to so many community partnerships. Yesterday, for example, we had someone from Head Start come to share opportunities for young children. The center officially opened in mid-September, and even in 6 months, we've been through multiple program iterations. The idea for a knitting group didn't work out, and we'll have a soccer clinic later this month. We're adapting together, and we know that needs will change, and the community will change. The feasting at the table is obviously central for us as Christians, and so inviting people together at tables as beloved community to give thanks for our relationships, to come to know each other more fully, to share a meal. It's who we are. Little did we know that one day 200 people would show up for dinner, a feast celebrating the cultures of refugee neighbors and prepared by and with them. These feasts, which are held about once a month, bring the community together. The church, the neighborhood, local nonprofit partners, area college students, friends. Who could have known how much presidential orders would so swiftly and suddenly affect the mission of the church, or how our community would respond? We've seen an extraordinary outpouring of love here in the past few weeks. We're connecting with people who are now serving and learning and giving alongside us to express love and compassion and support for our neighbors. They may not be in the pews on Sunday morning, but they are our partners in mission. And I believe hearts are being strangely warmed, as we say, through this. We're not out to convert our refugee neighbors by any means. Yet volunteers are coming to us asking God questions. It's helping us redefine how we understand church and who we see as members of the parish. A local after-school program contacted us a few weeks ago because the youth had heard the news about the Halton refugee resettlement and they wanted to do something. These are teenagers that live in our neighborhood. It was Valentine's Day, and while we talked, they made cards. And this one, I think, has a powerful message and really speaks to what we're seeing here. Love is in the air. And to the refugees, you are wanted in this world. One of our challenges, I think, as we move forward will be to look at our infrastructure, to put support in place where it's needed for sustainability, especially, I think, to examine our processes, how we incorporate individuals and partners in the wider community, how we discern and make decisions to navigate growth, which has been rapid, and to navigate changes over time, to equip people for mission, and also how we involve refugees side by side in this mission, and to continue prayerfully to hold our baptismal covenant as we do so in the context of this neighborhood and this mission to which God has called us. Perhaps the best advice for how to approach this came from one of the boys at the center, children from our newest family from Sudan who came in just before the halt. They were gathered at a table on their first night, and I was trying to get their names and a basic assessment when this boy came over and he said, they don't know yet. Keep in mind, he came here 4 months ago from a different country and speaking another language than these children. And he said, start with the letters. That's how I learned. And I thought, oh my, in a way that was us. When we started, we didn't know yet. And he said, start with the letters, and then the words, and then he gestured really big to indicate sentences. And he said, then you get the stories. He reminded me of the importance of starting somewhere, of beginning, and finding or building bridges to the next steps. The stories and relationships continue to unfold and to grow, teaching us to bring our hearts out in the open more often, to bring our hearts out and to share them, and to continue to love our neighbors